Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 31 based on novel. So let's start. The whole competition that shocked the entire Tao sect finally ended as the sun set. Countless Tao sect's disciples carried some remnant shock in their hearts together with some dissatisfaction as they scattered and left. This whole competition had many twists and turns. First, Ying Xiaoxiao was unexpectedly defeated by Wang Yang. Just when everyone thought that Wang Yang would successfully come out on top, Lin Dong came knocking. In a fearsome and ruthless manner, he defeated Wang Yang in front of the countless number of shocked onlookers and became the most dazzling individual in this whole competition. The continuous plot twists during this competition completely caught everyone off guard. At the same time, it caused everyone to be excited. Lin Dong's and Wang Yang's intense fight caused one's scalp to turn numb, while their hearts could not help but burn with passion. That battle will undoubtedly become one of the classics in the history of the whole competition. Lin Dong eventually obtained victory. However, he voluntarily gave up the commanding authority to Ying Xiaoxiao. His move caused many disciples to feel shock and admiration in their hearts. After all, not everyone would be able to perform such a feat. This also allowed Lin Dong's soaring reputation to finally reach its peak, and it now even showed signs of surpassing the senior disciples like Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed since the whole competition. Although 3 days had passed, the interior of the Tao sect was still tirelessly spreading word of the exciting battles during the whole competition. The fiery hot atmosphere had yet to die down. During these 3 days, the injuries within Lin Dong's body were also completely healed. Although he had been greatly exhausted during that intense fight, it was fortunate that he did not suffer many inner injuries. With Lin Dong's powerful physical body, most of his injuries healed within 3 days and he would no longer be burdened by them. While Lin Dong was recuperating, the desolate hall continued to stay in a lively and heated state. Quite a number of disciples raised their heads and puffed out their chests when they walked. This was the first time that their desolate hall had emerged victorious during the whole competition in 100 years. Hence, it was reasonable for them to feel proud. Lin Dong was seated on a green rock on a quiet mountain within the desolate hall. His eyes were shut tightly as yuan power rippled around him, before tunneling into his body bit by bit. After this silent training continued for around 2 hours, a soft rushing wind sound was suddenly heard. Lin Dong's tightly shut eyes also slowly opened as he looked to his front. An elderly figure was rushing over from that direction. It was Wu Dao. "You have almost made a complete recovery, right?" Wu Dao landed beside Lin Dong and smilingly asked. "Yes, I'm almost completely healed." Lin Dong smiled and nodded. "This time around, your performance is quite spectacular. Ha ha, right now, the tails of those little brats from the desolate hall are almost reaching the heavens." Wu Dao smiled. Immediately, his eyes turned to look at the young man in front. A pleased expression was present in his eyes. He had personally brought Lin Dong into the Tao sect. Moreover, Lin Dong had joined his desolate hall. Hence, he could be considered to have watched Lin Dong's rise step by step, from a new disciple to the strongest younger generation member in the Tao sect. Lin Dong laughed. The desolate hall had been suppressed by the other 3 halls for so many years, and they now finally had the opportunity for release. Acting a little arrogant was harmless after all. Our desolate hall has become much livelier during these past few days. The disciples from the other 3 halls would occasionally come over. It is likely that most of them want to pay you a visit. Additionally, that girl Huan Huan has also came over a couple of times. However, you have been training in isolation for the past few days. It seems like she is a little unhappy, Wu Dao smilingly said. Lin Dong smiled. He could imagine that girl continuously muttering that haughty jerk or other similar words. "Since you have almost made a complete recovery, follow me to the sect master's residences. As the champion of the whole competition, it is likely that the sect master will give you quite a reward," Wu Dao said. Lin Dong's eyes brightened when he heard this. He was a practical person. Compared to the so-called reputation, he was naturally more interested in obtaining something that would truly boost his strength. When Wu Dao saw Lin Dong's reaction, he involuntarily chided him. After which, he ceased speaking anything further. Promptly, he waved his hand, turned around and left, while Lin Dong hurriedly followed. Lin Dong followed Wu Dao to a quiet mountain deep within the Dao sect before landing on it. That mountain did not possess any large magnificent halls. Instead, all it had was a bamboo house. A leisurely aura spread over, causing one's tensed heart to relax. The sect master is waiting for you inside. Head in. Wu Dao pointed at the bamboo house and said. Lin Dong nodded. He took a step forward before pushing the door and casually entered. The lighting within the bamboo house was gentle, and there was a bamboo table at the front, where a white-robed Ying Xuanzi was quietly seated. His face was like a piece of jade, while his aura like the ocean, deep and unfathomable. Disciple Lin Dong greets sect master. Even someone as proud as Lin Dong felt some respect in his heart towards him. Therefore, he halted his footsteps, cupped his hands together and said, Take a seat. Ying Xuanzi raised his head and smiled gently towards Lin Dong. He pointed towards the mat in front of him and said. Lin Dong did not stand on ceremony as he walked forward and sat down. However, his body was extremely straight. This time around, I have to thank you. Ying Xuanzi's eyes had a twinkle as he stared at the young man in front and said, I am also a disciple of the Dao sect. I think that these matters are also considered part of my duty, right? Lin Dong spread his hand and smilingly said. Regarding Wang Yang, back then, our Dao sect did let him down. Therefore, there are many matters that are inconvenient for us to intervene in. All we can do is to allow him to act as he pleases. Of course, the reason I wish to thank you is not because you stopped him, but because you handed the commanding authority over to Xiao Xiao. Ying Xuanzi smilingly said. Both you and Wang Yang are not weaker than Xiao Xiao. If it really comes to a life and death battle, the both of you are naturally the best candidates. However, there are also many other issues to consider during the Great Sect competition. In this aspect, Xiao Xiao should perform better than the both of you. Lin Dong nodded. He was in complete agreement with that assessment as well. Ying Xuanzi looked at Lin Dong. The corners of his mouth contained a gentleness as he softly said, I am aware of your past and I know that you hold many secrets that even I might not be aware of. I do not mind. This is because, like I mentioned before, regardless of what happens, you are currently a disciple of the Dao sect. As long as you do not do something to harm the Dao sect, this sect will ultimately stand behind you. Lin Dong was slightly startled as warmth flowed within his heart. He immediately lowered his head slowly and said, This disciple understands. All right, I should first give you your reward. Ying Xuanzi smiled before he promptly waved his sleeve. 3 rays of light shot out from his sleeve, before suspending themselves in the air. These 3 objects are all extraordinary items. You can pick any one of them. Lin Dong raised his head curiously when he heard Ying Xuanzi's words, before he stared at air. There were 3 clusters of light there. The first cluster of light appeared to contain a small fiery red ruler. The ruler was covered in flame-like patterns and there was faint heat wildly spreading from it. From its appearance, it appeared to be a soul treasure that was even more powerful than his black dragon sky-roaring seal. The second item was a black armor the size of a human head. Wave after wave of black chi seeped out from within it and lingered over its surface like a snake. This was a defensive soul treasure that Lin Dong had never owned before. Both of these items were clearly extraordinary objects. The auras emitted by them clearly indicated that they were high-grade heavenly soul treasures. If they were placed in the outside world, it would definitely attract a scuffle. Lin Dong also coveted these 2 items. However, he did not make his decision immediately. Instead, his eyes turned towards the last cluster of light. The last light cluster was a black palm-sized wooden tablet. The wooden tablet appeared to have some blurry symbols on it. However, compared to the previous 2 items, this wooden tablet seemed much more ordinary. However, it was precisely because of how ordinary this item appeared that it ended up causing Lin Dong to frown. Due to his mental energy, he had quite keen senses. Hence, he could vaguely sense that there was a relatively peculiar fluctuation from the wooden tablet. That fluctuation actually caused his heart to palpitate for a moment. How? Have you made up your mind? Ying Xuanzi asked with a gentle smile as he watched Lin Dong, who had knitted his brows and fell into deep thought. Lin Dong's eyes flickered. The small fiery red ruler and the black armor were clearly extremely practical. After all, a high-grade heavenly soul treasure was much more powerful compared to his black dragon sky-roaring seal. If he could obtain either of them, it would likely boost his fighting strength significantly. However, the black wooden tablet, it was just like a cat's paw scratching Lin Dong's heart, causing his eyes to uncontrollably look over. Forget it. Consider myself unlucky if I make the wrong choice. Lin Dong hesitated for a moment, before he finally sighed helplessly. After which, his finger pointed towards the wooden tablet that was wrapped by a cluster of light and made his choice, I want that. His words had barely faded when a faint trace of shock flashed across Ying Xuanzi's eyes. In the bamboo house, after his initial hesitation, Lin Dong's finger finally landed in front of the cluster of light that held the wooden tablet. Are you certain? Ying Xuanzi gently smiled and asked. Yes. Lin Dong nodded. Since he had already made up his mind, he no longer had any misgivings. Although high-grade heavenly soul treasures were rare, it did not reach the extent where he was unable to abandon it. Upon seeing that Lin Dong had ceased hesitating, Ying Xuanzi also laughed faintly. He waved his sleeve and kept the other two light clusters into his sleeve. After which, he extended his hand and the black wooden tablet also slowly landed in his palm. Following the disappearance of the light on the wooden tablet, Lin Dong finally discovered that the surface of the tablet seemed to be covered in some extremely obscure and mysterious symbols. These symbols appeared to possess a life force and actually slowly rotated on the wooden tablet. Sect Master, what is this thing? What use does it have? Lin Dong carefully inquired. Static tablet. Ying Xuanzi replied faintly. Static tablet? Lin Dong was startled. His face was at a loss. In ancient times, there was once a divine item known as the static divine tablet. Once it was activated, it would be able to immediately freeze time and space. Those who were trapped within would no longer have the ability to resist and hence will be at the mercy of others. Ying Xuanzi played with the black wooden tablet in his hand. Even for someone like himself, there was an admiration that could not be hidden within his eyes when mentioning this so-called static divine tablet. Lin Dong was moved. To think that the so-called static divine tablet was actually so frightening that it could even cause time to stand still. Just how terrifying was such an ability? What relationship does this static tablet have with it? Lin Dong's eyes rotated as he asked the question that he was most concerned about. The static tablet is a soul treasure that was created by copying the static divine tablet. Do you really think that my Dao sect actually possessed such a divine object? Ying Xuanzi laughed. So, it is an imitation. Lin Dong rubbed his nose. However, he was not disappointed. This was because he did not possess the wishful thinking that he would be able to obtain such a legendary divine object with such ease. However, even though it is a mere imitation, this static tablet is still able to surpass most high-grade heavenly soul treasures. Of course, it has not reached the level of a pure yuan treasure. It can only be said to be between these two levels. Ying Xuanzi said. Lin Dong nodded. A pure yuan treasure was considered an important treasure even within these super sects. Yet, this static tablet was merely an imitation. Regardless of how powerful it was likely difficult for it to reach the level of a pure yuan treasure. Additionally, this static tablet might not possess the frightening strength of the real deal, but it is able to cause the opponent to be immobile for an instant when it is activated. I think that during a battle between experts, such an instant should be sufficient, right? Ying Xuanzi smilingly said. Lin Dong nodded excitedly. In a fight between the strong, any opening was fatal, much less directly causing the opponent to unexpectedly freeze. If he possessed this static tablet before he exchanged blows with Wang Yang, it was likely that the process of the battle would have been much more relaxed. Little fellow, you have good eyes. Take it. One requires mental energy to activate this treasure. However, you possess quite a great achievement in terms of mental energy. It will likely not be a problem. Ying Xuanzi laughed and threw the static tablet in his hand towards Lin Dong. It is an object without an owner. I have already helped you remove the obstructions to refining it. You will be able to use it once you refine it with blood. Lin Dong hurriedly extended his hand and received it. The black wooden tablet felt warm when it entered his hands. After touching it carefully, he found that it was neither wood nor metal. He was uncertain of just what it was made of. Upon receiving the soul treasure, Lin Dong unceremoniously pressed the tip of his finger, and a drop of fresh blood fell onto the static tablet. After which, a faint light scattered from it. A kind of vaguely present relationship quietly rose within Lin Dong's heart. The light on the static tablet became increasingly bright. At the end, it actually slowly floated. Finally, it transformed into a ray of light that directly entered Lin Dong's forehead and disappeared. Lin Dong's eyes slowly shut when the static tablet shot into his forehead. His mind swiftly entered his Niwen palace. Within the small world, where mental energy whizzed by, he saw the black wooden tablet quietly floating within. Mental energy slowly rotated around it like a wave, while threads of mental energy continued to pour in. Under this infusion of mental energy, Lin Dong could sense the various mechanisms within this static tablet and began to gradually become familiar with them. Lin Dong shut his eyes for 2 full hours. During this time, Ying Xuanzi did not rush him at all. All he did was to sit quietly like an old monk. The sunlight outside of the window gradually became dim as those tightly shut eyes of Lin Dong were finally slowly opened. A mysterious light flickered within both his eyes. Finally, he suddenly extended his hands and slowly formed a relatively strange seal. Still, Lin Dong's eyes looked towards a butterfly flying at the window. The strange seal formed by his hand suddenly aimed at it. After which, a soft voice emerged from his mouth. When that word was emitted from Lin Dong's mouth, an invisible and extremely mysterious fluctuation suddenly swept out from the spot between Lin Dong's brows. When that fluctuation erupted, the flapping wings of the butterfly dancing outside of the window suddenly froze. Its entire body appeared to have been embedded within the crevice of space and time. An extremely mysterious scene. However, this unusual scene did not last for long before it was shattered. The butterfly also flapped its wings from shock as it swiftly fled from this place. Such a mysterious static tablet, Lin Dong's gaze was burning. He licked his lips and laughed. From a certain point of view, this static tablet did not possess an overly strong killing power. However, this strange ability to cause something to freeze made Lin Dong's heart beat harder. It was likely that he would be extremely miserable if his opponent had such an ability in a life-and-death battle. However, it exhausts too much mental energy, Lin Dong added somewhat regretfully. He had merely used the stilling ability for a couple of breaths earlier, but the consumption of his mental energy had reached quite a frightening level. How can there be something completely perfect in this world? Ying Xuanzi laughed. Lin Dong nodded his head as he laughed dryly. He was indeed too greedy. This ability to freeze something was already so frightening. It would truly be far too unrealistic if one could use it as he pleased. It is good that you like this thing. Actually, according to the rules, even the champion of the whole competition cannot obtain this static tablet. Ying Xuanzi spoke with a deeper meaning to his words. Hehe, in that case, I will thank Sect Master for your generosity. Lin Dong caught the hint. He understood that if he had not stopped Wang Yang and finally handed the commanding authority back to Ying Xiaoxiao on his own accord, it would be quite difficult to obtain something like the static tablet. Ying Xuanzi involuntarily smiled. Soon after, he spoke again. There is another half a year before the great Sect competition. All of you should pay more attention when that time comes. When he spoke until the end, the jade-like face of Ying Xuanzi had a frightening darkness flashing across it. Are the disciples of the Yuan Gate very strong? Lin Dong knitted his brows and asked. The strongest of the Yuan Gate disciples are the 3 little kings and the 8 soul generals, Ying Xuanzi slowly explained. 3 little kings, 8 soul generals, Lin Dong muttered. The Yuan Gate is divided into 8 sections. These 8 soul generals are the strongest disciples within the 8 sections. As for the 3 little kings, Ying Xuanzi curled his mouth. Only then did he continue, they are all considered to have been personally taught by the 3 sect masters of the Yuan Gate. All of them possess monstrous talent. They can be considered the most outstanding amongst the younger generation of the Eastern Xian region. Lin Dong's pupils shrunk a little. A cool air was slowly inhaled within his heart. Clearly, he did not expect that the so-called 3 little kings would have such overwhelming backgrounds. The 3 sect masters of the Yuan Gate were the top-level experts in the Eastern Xian region. Just how strong were those who had been personally taught by them? If you end up meeting them during the Great Sect competition, you must definitely be careful. Ying Xuanzi warned. Immediately, he laughed faintly and said, however, you need not be overly afraid. Back then, Zhuo Tong had gathered a group of friends during the Great Sect competition and ended up killing one of the 3 little kings from the Yuan Gate, severely injuring another and causing the last to flee. Lin Dong was stunned and speechless. This senior Zhu Tong was indeed an extremely ferocious person. No wonder he possessed such a great reputation within the hearts of the Dao Sect disciples. Such a series of achievements caused him to feel his blood boil a little after listening to them. This disciple understand. Lin Dong nodded and engraved Ying Xuanzi's words in his heart. It seemed that this Great Sect competition was indeed not just an ordinary competition. You should train properly during this period of time. There is no need for all of you to stand out during the Great Sect competition. All you need to do is to try and protect the other disciples. Ying Xuanzi waved his hand and said. Understood. Lin Dong did not remain any longer after seeing this. He cupped his hands together in a respectful manner, before turning around to leave. Ying Xuanzi watched the young man's back as he left. His hand gently rubbed the table. He appeared to be able to see a small semblance of Zhu Tong's figure on Lin Dong. The both of them possess an extremely shocking talent. However, he did not know whether this Great Sect competition would end up being a little different because of Lin Dong's appearance. Nightfall covered the land as the cool moonlight scattered down from the sky and penetrated the enormous Sect defense formation that reached high up into the heavens. It was just like a thin cloth that covered the numerous mountain ranges of the Dao Sect. A young man was quietly seated within a rather secluded room. Both his hands were repeatedly forming a somewhat strange set of seals. Following the formation of these seals, a vague and peculiar ripple quietly erupted from within them. Lin Dong's seal technique had only cycled thrice before he rubbed his forehead and stopped. The stilling effect of this static tablet truly exhausted one's energy. Even though he was a 5-seal heaven symbol master, he was already somewhat exhausted after having used it thrice. He really could not imagine just how exhausting the legendary static divine tablet would be when it was activated. It was likely that an ordinary expert would immediately disappear into the wind the moment he activated that divine item. It looks like I need to think of a way to improve my mental energy cultivation. Lin Dong fell into deep thought. His current Yuan power had already advanced to the 6 Yuan Nirvana stage. However, his mental energy still remained at the 5-seal heaven symbol master level. There was a little favoritism that resulted in this. It seemed like Lin Dong would have to pay more attention to his mental energy cultivation in future. With this thought in mind, Lin Dong was just about to shut his eyes and train when a faint ripple suddenly emerged from inside his body. Soon after, a golden light flew out from his body in front of his startled eyes. The golden light finally expanded in front of him and transformed into a golden illusory figure. Little Martin. Lin Dong was immediately stunned when he saw this golden illusory figure. This was because the figure looked just like Little Martin. Moreover, this golden light came from the demon spirit seal that Little Martin left him before leaving. However, there had been no activity from this demon spirit seal after such a long time, and Lin Dong had nearly forgotten it. Hey, how's life at the Dao Sect treating you? You didn't get bullied, did you? Little Martin's figure was quite blurry. His handsomely bewitching face stared at Lin Dong in a teasing manner, before a familiar voice was transmitted from it. You are finally willing to contact me. Lin Dong rolled his eyes at this fellow in a snappy manner. Ever since Little Martin took Little Flame and left, Lindong had not received any news about them. Heh, it's all because I want to give Little Flame a chance to become stronger. I have also heard a little about what happened to you. It seems like you are doing quite well within the Dao sect, Little Martin smilingly said. Not bad. Lindong smiled. After which, he glanced at the illusory figure and said, You didn't activate the demon spirit seal just to say such rubbish, right? Little Martin laughed. Immediately, a grim expression surfaced on his handsome face as he said, Little Flame is injured. The smile on Lindong's face withdrew bit by bit, before a dark and solemn storm cloud-like expression surged into his eyes. What happened? A couple of days ago while I was out. That fellow barged into a certain place and discovered some treasures. However, he ended up being injured by the experts guarding them. However, his constitution is very strong and he has largely recovered from his injuries over the past 2 days. Little Martin's eyes had a faint cold glint surging within them. What do you plan on doing? Lindong narrowed his eyes and spoke faintly. What else can I do? Little Flame cannot be beaten up for no reason. Little Martin laughed in a strange manner. Are you unable to handle it? Lindong softly asked. If Little Martin was able to easily resolve this problem, it was likely that he would not look for him. Based on Little Martin's character, it was likely that he would have just directly attacked and killed the other party. Although I have been continuously recovering my powers, I have yet to reach my peak strength. Additionally, the opponents this time around are extremely troublesome to deal with. They possessed strength from nature and they also hold unique skills. I have tried but it was not very effective. Little Martin voiced his thoughts. In that case, do you want me to head over? Lindong asked. The current him was also no longer that new disciple, who had just joined the Dao sect. Right now, he could match up to a 9-yuan Nirvana stage expert, a fact that allowed him to freely roam the Eastern Xian region. Yes. Little Martin went straight to the point. He nodded before speaking, the items that Little Flame discovered are also highly beneficial to you. We should not allow outsiders to benefit. Little Martin paused after he spoke, before he laughed in a strange fashion. Of course, if you come over, it is best that you are able to bring something else over. Only that thing can break those fellows' special technique. What? Lindong was stunned. The Sky Hall in the Dao sect has a pure yuan treasure called the Heavenly Phoenix Zither. If you are able to borrow it and bring it over, I will be able to break their special technique. Pure yuan treasure. Heavenly Phoenix Zither. A black line appeared on Lindong's face when he heard these words. He spoke somewhat helplessly. Pure yuan treasure is no ordinary object. It is a valued item even for a super sect. How can they easily allow a disciple like me to borrow it? Just try your best. If you fail to do so, I will think of another way. However, if you are able to successfully borrow the Heavenly Phoenix Zither, you should hurry to the 10,000 Beast Mountain range. Once you arrive, you will be able to sense our location with the help of the Demon Spirit Seal. Little Martin also spoke somewhat helplessly. Okay. Lindong nodded his head with a mild headache. After which, the golden illusory figure in front of him fluctuated, before finally disappearing. Heavenly Phoenix Zither. Lindong's hand involuntarily rubbed his brows when he looked at the spot where the golden light had disappeared. A pure yuan treasure was not a heavenly soul treasure. Who could he approach and ask? The Hall Chief of the Sky Hall, Chi Lei? He did not know if the other party would end up dismissing him. Furthermore, should Lindong accidentally lose the Heavenly Phoenix Zither, wouldn't their Sky Hall end up suffering a great loss? Such a treasure was governed by each individual hall and even Ying Xuanzi could not interfere as he pleased. Looks like I can only approach Ying Huan. Lindong thought about it for a while, before he realized that the only person he could count on was Ying Huan, whom he was most familiar with. However, that girl had thrown a young lady's tantrum because she was unable to meet him when she came to the desolate hall some time earlier. In fact, she had not appeared before him for quite a number of days and it was likely because she was a little angry. Hence, he wondered if she would simply roll her eyes if he asked for her help. However, given the solemn manner in which little Martin spoke, it was likely that their current opponents were quite troublesome to deal with. Therefore, even if Lin Dong had to endure the embarrassment from Ying Huan's rolling eyes, he must thicken his skin, look for her and give it a shot. With this thought in mind, Lin Dong's expression was a little unnatural when he appeared in front of Ying Huan the next day. Ying Huan's small face was like a plank when she saw Lin Dong's expression. There were quite a number of Sky Hall disciples coming and going around her, and their eyes contained some playfulness as they watched these two rather famous figures in the Tao sect. Oh! Such a busy person has finally found some free time. Ying Huan's large eyes glanced at Lin Dong and spoke faintly. Lin Dong coughed dryly. Why did this little miss have such a fiery temper? However, when he remembered that he had a favor to ask, he could only speak. I was still recuperating previously. You saw me being injured by senior brother Wang Yang. See, now that my injuries are healed, I have come looking for you. Lin Dong felt his face turn a little green after uttering the last sentence. It was likely that this was the first time he had spoken to a lady in such a phony manner. However, when he thought of what little Martin asked him, he could only clench his teeth and endure. Ying Huan's face turned red when she heard Lin Dong's words. Soon after, the young lady directly rolled her eyes at him in a rude manner. In future, when you say such words to a lady, can you show your unwillingness so clearly? There are a ton of people looking for me and I don't need one more like you. Even with Lin Dong's thick skin, his face involuntarily turned a little red when he heard Ying Huan's mocking laughter. He was actually being mocked by this little lass. It was simply, "Tell me, why have you come looking for me?" Ying Huan stared at Lin Dong's rapidly changing expression, as a sly glint flashed across her large eyes. She was aware that the male pride within this fellow, whose reputation within the Tao sect was currently soaring, had likely reached a breaking point. Therefore, she changed the topic. Lin Dong helplessly sighed upon hearing these words. Clearly, the strange and playful Ying Huan had realized his motive for taking the initiative to look for her. Her previous manner was likely an act. Lin Dong's eyes looked around him. After which, he took a step forward and approached Ying Huan. He was able to sniff the fragrance from the young lady's body. "I need your help, can you help me to borrow something?" "What?" Ying Huan was a little puzzled as she knitted her brows. Lin Dong laughed bitterly under that young lady's bright large eyes, which appeared to have light surging across them. Finally, he thickened his skin and said, "Can you loan me the Sky Hall's Heavenly Phoenix Zither for a few days?" This video will end here.